Howdy folks, welcome back to 50 Nautical Mile Arc. Today we're going to do a cold and dark tutorial on the FREEWARE Robin by Aerobask. Now just to catch you up to speed, Aerobask is a payware aircraft company for third-party aircraft, and as a thank you to the community, they released this FREEWARE Robin. And the full name of it is the Robin DR401 CDI 155, although I took a look at an official document and it's actually the DR401 155 CDI. So the name is reversed there, but that is okay. We did take a previous look at this. If you need to be caught up to speed, Aerobask is a payware commercial third-party add-on company for X-Plane 11, or they're doing planes for X-Plane 11. And as a thank you to the community, they decided to release this aircraft for free. So it is free, but it's payware quality. And in the previous video on this a few days ago, I did a first look, which was purely a first look. I didn't do anything about it. We looked at it for the first time together. And you might mention my comments that the checklist was lacking and that there were some continuity errors, where it'd be like, turn this on, test it, turn it off, but then you would do some other things that required you to do some other things that were missing and things like that. So I decided to come up with my own checklist and share with everybody. Now, FreeQuest, a subscriber of mine, did link in the previous video to the official operating handbook for this aircraft, which I appreciate greatly, and I took a look at that. And it looks like Aerobask did take that checklist, because the wording is like literally copied from the POH. However, they left out a bunch of things. So what I did is I made my own checklist, but I'm going to share with you all, because in the past, my subscribers have given me feedback that they enjoy my checklist and leave them for themselves. So I figured I would share this with you all. Now this is how I am going to operate the aircraft. The reason why I say that is we each use the simulator in a different way. So this checklist for some of you may be way too detailed, way too many things. For others, it might not be detailed enough, and you may want to add to yourself. So anyway, this video is a cold and dark start, well, and a full checklist of what I'm going to do for this aircraft, how I use this aircraft, and take it, leave it, write it down, copy it, edit it, do whatever you want to do. We're going to go through everything. Engine starting, all the way to cruise, all the way to landing and shutdown. So, first thing you got to do is get this thing started. Now, before we hop inside, this is how the aircraft starts when you load the sim. You've got the chocks out, canopy open, and baggage doors automatically open. When we close the canopy in a second, that baggage door will close on its own. And when we turn on the battery in a moment, the chocks will go away. That's how that works. But anyway, let's hop inside and get this thing started up. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is hop up here and close the canopy. Just like that. And just to show you, the baggage door did close at the same time. Alrighty, so then we're going to come down and make sure the parking brake is set, which is right there in the center. Then we're going to turn the battery on, which is that one. Then we're going to turn the alternator on, which is that one, and we're going to close that. I'm not doing like the testing and all that myself. That's in the original documentation from Aerobask if you want. We're just going to move on to starting the engine. Over here, we can do the ELT test, turn it on for seconds, and then back to arm. That is so if you crash and the G-forces are strong enough, it'll alert. It'll send, like a beacon, so to speak. That way, people can find you, because presumably if you hit the ground hard enough for ELT, you're not going to be able to call for help yourself. That's the theory on that. Alright, so strobe light. Now, both checklists, Aerobask and the official ones, say strobe light. Nothing says strobe, so I'm using flash. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm going to use. Check the fuel level, I believe I have down here. Yep, fuel is dead center. Otherwise, you use the weight and fuel through the sim to change that. Alt air close, it is by default, but it does move just so you can see that. Make sure that's closed. Auxiliary tank, also make sure that's closed. The way this works is you can have two fuel tanks. That's what the L and R are up here. Uses the main fuel tank first, and then if you're low enough on fuel, we can do the auxiliary tank. Alright, so anyway, so auxiliary tank closed. We already said that. Next, fuel switch on. That's right here. And click spot just like that. There we go. Fuel pump, I was correct. This is the fuel pump icon. I say that because in the previous video I wasn't sure. Throttles to idle. That's this thing. They call it thrust. I call it throttle. Master engine switch on. That's this one. Wait for the preheating light to go out. It only takes a few seconds. I'm not going to edit this out because I want you to see how long this takes. We're going to wait. There we go. It's out. Start the engine. So we just... Do we hold it? I can't remember. No, click it twice, and then we hold it for a couple seconds. There we go, we're up and running. Check the RPM to be 890. There it is. Make sure the alt lights and FADEC lights are off, which they are. There we go, everything is off. Pitot heat, this is when I'm turning it on. Now, in the previous video I mentioned when to use Pitot heat, because I've in the past looked up when do you use carb heat, and it's like debates up and down the internet. And I was right, same thing with Pitot heat. People debate up and down the internet. Yeah, all that I got out of it is it's a big difference from like commercial flights to general aviation. Some airplanes have a low and high for Pitot heat. Some people it was just crazy. So I'm going to turn it on now. It's just a simulator. I'm not going to get into arguing about when to use it because I personally can't figure it out. I'm just going to turn it on now. So after that, we turn the fuel pump off. And that completes the engine start part of the checklist. Now we're going to move on to the after engine start part of the checklist. Alright, so after engine start, we come down here and we're going to turn on the avionics switch. And then this is when we would do our flight plan and the GPS, and we would do our radios, nav, and VORs, and NDBs, and like I said, flight plan if we had one, which I'm not going to do today. And I still have to learn how to use the G1000. I started reading the manual, but this video has nothing to do with the G1000, and I don't know myself how to use the G1000, but that's when you start messing with this stuff. Altimeter and barometer now, that's what I would do next. I did find that. It's this guy here. Supposed to be... What? It's not moving. There it is. There it's moving. So anyway, it's the big arrow, I guess. Okay. Barometer outside, course inside. Okay, so it's the big arrow. There you go. That's when you would move that. Sync the gyros. I don't think you need to in this one. That's when X-Plane 11.2 came out, and all of a sudden they started simulating gyro drift. Although I don't think this airplane has that issue because the warning doesn't pop up. But I have a keyboard for that. That's a whole nother subject for another day. But this is when I sync the gyros if needed. Otherwise, that is the after start checklist. Now let's move directly onto the taxi checklist. So these two lights, the way I'm using them is I'm using the left one for taxi, which is just one light in front. In fact, I'll show you right now because that's kind of the point of this. So let's spin around super fast. There's your taxi light there. If you come back down here, I've been adding this one as a landing light. Again, if you spin around, and my preset is different every time. Now we have two lights up there. That's how I'm using them. But for right now, to taxi, we're just going to turn on the left one for the taxi light. Nav lights on, so we come back up here and we do the nav light now as well. Flaps down one notch. The flap lever is here. Of course, I have it on my yoke. You can also see it up here, first flap. And then we begin our taxi. So while we're about to complete our taxi, I should mention where we are. It's KANE. And I modeled this myself for X-Plane 11 a long time ago. It was my first big airport project, because it's a big airport. Otherwise, it's for the scenery, it's scenery gateway compatible, so it is in your X-Plane as well. KANE is Anoka County-Blaine Airport, also known as James Field, which is just north of Minneapolis. I guess you could consider it maybe northwest suburb, but it's pretty much just due north of Minneapolis. Anyway, that's where we are. Let's set the parking brakes. So after taxi, before takeoff, if you want to do a FADEC test, you can. All you do is you hold this, and everything runs up, etc., and then you let go. If you want to be more detailed about all that, you can look up FADEC test. Somebody left a comment, a nice detailed comment. I really appreciated it. Got to learn a little bit about FADEC. But for our intents and purposes, just hold the button, test. This down here only autos model, so there's nothing to do there. Alrighty, before takeoff, FADEC test, we did that. Landing lights on, so we're just going to add that. Fuel pump on, we're going to add that. And now, just like that, we're ready to take off. Alright, for takeoff and climb, it's pretty simple. Rotate at 61 knots. Initial climb is 68 knots, and then from there 78, 75, 72, depending on your height. I'm not going to get that detailed. I just know that I'm going to do my initial climb around 68, and then from there it's whatever happens. So that's we're just going to rotate 61, climb 68, and then whatever happens, happens. And let's get in the air, and then we'll talk about cruising and a few other things. So release the parking brake, thrust 100%. And here we go. As soon as we get to 61, airspeed is alive. As soon as we get to 61, we'll rotate. And there we go. Up and up and up and up and up. And you may have noticed I never mentioned anything about trim, and that's because at default it's centered. So we're just going to leave it the way it is. There we go. See, 71. See, there's good. Alrighty, so this is our climb. Flaps in, obviously. Alright, so let's see what else. Takeoff, climb, where we talked about rotate and climb speeds. So now cruise. Let's pretend we're cruising just to save some time here. I'm not going to make us climb to like 5,000 feet or anything. So let's say we're cruising. Throttles 85% to 100%. That's what the modeler of the aircraft says. So we'll leave it that way. The reason why I say the modeler of the aircraft is because different aircraft will model failures in different ways. For example, certain aircraft, they'll be like N1, 92%. Or other aircraft, they'll say, you know, just keep this gauge in the green. For this aircraft, they just say 85 to 100% throttle. So I'm going to keep it 100%, at least for right now. Alright, once we're cruising, we'll turn the fuel pump off, and then we will turn the landing lights off as appropriate. There we go. And I'm trying to pick up my checklist I just dropped while I fly a plane. Alright, so let's see. That is the super short cruise checklist. So next will be our approach checklist. So let's turn around. I do have weather turned off, by the way, just because when I do a plane like this for the first time, it's nice to have the wind off and stuff so you know how the actual aircraft behaves and not affected by things like wind. I totally contradicted that though in my first look video with the wind, and we had a triple landing. We're gonna have a triple landing today too. I'm not even gonna try to have a great landing. My landings are bad. Anyway, are we too high to come down on runway 27? We might have to circle around. But anyway, approach checklist. Here we go. Landing lights and taxi lights on, which are down here. And I'm trying to look at my attitude indicator, and that's not working. Okay. Landing lights, taxi lights on, fuel pump on, which is down there. We would have set our barometer or our altimeter already. Yeah, we're gonna end up circling around, aren't we? We would have set our altimeter already. We don't need two others turned off. So first set of flaps 92, which we actually do now. Second set of flaps at 81, which we could actually do now. Let's try this. Let's just nosedive. So again, that was first flaps 92, second flaps 81, final approach 65, touchdown 63. So let's see if I can nosedive around out here without having to go around. So final approach 65, which is going to be the shortest approach you've ever seen, but you get the point. That's, you know, that's what this is about. So 65 and 63, short field landing 62. So let's see if we can slow down to 65 and have a 100-foot final approach. Here we go. 65. Are we going to get down to 65? Let's see. Here we go. All right. So there's your final approach speed at 65. You want to touch down at 63. So a little bit of throttle here because we're a little bit below 63. And too slow. Let's see if we can do 63 before he touch down. There's 60, good enough. Throttle's at idle. Let's just touch down nice and smoothly. There we go. Nose wheel down gently. There we go. Braking, braking, braking. Whoop, I just hit my microphone. Sorry. Flaps coming in. There we go. All right, so that is your touchdown checklist. Approach and touchdown. So once we've touched down, we're going to taxi off this runway. Is that a taxiway? This is a taxiway. Let's take this one. Here we go. And let's see if I can do all this while we're rolling. I don't have enough hands. I'm trying to hold a checklist and a yoke and throttles at the same time. All right. Normally I get this stuff memorized. It's a little bit simpler. But anyway, all right. So after landing, landing lights off, yes. Keep the taxi lights on, yes. Fuel pump off, yes. Pitot heat off, yes. And flaps up, yes. So there you go. That's our after landing checklist. Let's quickly skedaddle to one of these hangars on the east side of the airport. We took off at the Avionics school, by the way. I did that because this is a trainer aircraft. But anyway, here we go. Zip, zip, zip. Zip around, zip around. Alright. Whoa, nice brakes. Okay, here we go. Let's stop right here, and if we look down, we'll set the parking brake. Alright, so shutdown checklist. Parking brake. Correct. That is on. Taxi lights off now. Yes. Nav lights off. Strobe lights off. Avionics off. Come down here so we can see that better. And let's see. Avionics off. The key off. There we go. Master engine switch off. Alternator off. There we go. And battery off. And canopy open. Now the canopy opening opened our baggage door, and turning the battery off turned our chocks back on. So that's how that happened. Well, that's your shutdown checklist. Alrighty, I know that was fast. I know I spoke quickly, but that's because it's a video and you can always pause or rewind if you're taking notes. If you miss anything, rewind. Do they still use the word rewind? I think so. Rewind the tape and hit pause if you missed anything. Otherwise, take it or leave it. That's just my checklist. Again, super fast. Like I said in the beginning, you might find too much detail in that checklist. You might find not enough detail in that checklist. Take or leave it. I just know that my small community here do appreciate my checklist, and a lot of you are using my checklist, so that's why I've been doing them, and I've had requests for more checklists. So there you go. If you found my video by accident, please subscribe. If you are a regular subscriber, thank you for your continuing support. Turn on notifications so you're notified when I upload. Mostly GA flights. 9 out of 10 are GA flights. Short flights. Somewhat detailed flights. I do want to say one more time, and I'll stop saying this. If you don't mind subscribing, even if you don't turn on notifications, if you don't want to be bothered, if you don't mind subscribing, that would be helpful, because as soon as I hit 1,000 subs, I can turn monetization back on, which means I can start buying aircraft again, because I'm getting a lot of subscriber requests for payware aircraft, because a lot of people like my style, which is completely flattering and humbling. However, I don't have the funds to buy aircraft. So I do have the runtime for the new YouTube requirement, but I don't have the subscriber base for the new YouTube requirement. So even if, like I said, even if you don't turn on notifications, just subscribing will get me up to 1,000 subs. I can start turning on ads, and by you watching those ads, I can start buying aircraft for you all, for all your requests for aircraft, for payware aircraft review, not reviews, but checklists and tutorials and learning it. Because obviously Flight Simulator has a lot of visual learners, which would totally make sense because we're flight simulators. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there. I'll stop saying that. I may say that again in a future video that I've already recorded. But anyway, I don't want to sound like I'm begging. It's just I'm getting a lot of momentum now, which is awesome. But I'm also getting a lot of requests for payware, which is awesome, but I don't have the funds. And subscribing, just subscribing, even if you don't watch the videos because I already have the runtime, just subscribing will help a ton for that. So thank you again for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm recording this out of order, so I'm not sure what's coming up next for you. Otherwise, enjoy what comes next. I will too. And I'll catch you on the next one.